Hey everybody, I'm Bob Bakert with Jazz Guitar today, and we're here with Dan Wilson. Hey Dan, how you doing, man?
Oh, doing all right. Good to be here with you.
Well, it's been a while. We've been trying to put this together for a while, and I'm delighted that we're here today. Um, I got a whole lot of questions for you.
Okay.
I love your playing. I'll just
Oh,
start there.
thank you.
I
Thank you.
love what you're doing. The thing that really, well, first of all, you remind me I mean, I know that you've got more influences than just George Benson, but man, you remind me so much of a young George Benson. I used to devour those records.
Man,
Beyond the Blue Horizon, Bad
oh,
Benson, all that stuff, man.
mhm.
you know I just devoured those. And so when I heard you playing, on this record specifically, I go, Jesus, that sounds like George. But then it's like a fine wine. You know how when you drink a fine wine, you go, yeah, but it's got hints of chocolate, it's got hints of blueberry, you got hints of Grant Green, you got hints of Pat Martino, specifically with your right hand. Um, you got all this other stuff that's going on over the top of kind of a heavy George thing, and I mean George is my all-time, he's my guy. I mean, I love Wes,
Mhm.
I love everybody else, but George is just, I don't know, man.
He's like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it'll take us maybe. I don't know if it'll happen in my lifetime, but like if we'll see another guitar player really kind of reach that level. I mean that level of mastery because like sometimes when I think I'm like yeah, I'm gaining some ground on guitar. I'll go back and I'll listen to and specific this specific period, like the early to mid 70s.
Right.
Is just where
The
his
the yeah, the pre-Breezen era.
yeah, and even during Breezing, like he played so much guitar on Breezing.
Yeah,
He was like at I think like the height of his powers. You know,
no doubt.
and it was just like I don't know. It just seems like when you hear somebody that can just play all this amazing stuff, and it's uh you can almost hear the fact that that they're not playing at their ceiling. Like there's still some more room.
Right.
That's how I feel about that, especially that period of George. You know.
Yeah, it's pretty astounding. Yeah, I love the playing on Breezen, actually. I don't know why I said what I said, because I love the playing on that. And I love this Masquerade. I mean, the vocal, I thought that was Stevie Wonder sitting in, man.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I really did. I thought, wow, Stevie Wonder's on. I go, what's going on with this? And then I saw that it was George singing. I went, oh Jesus, you know.
Yeah.
But it was amazing. But yeah, that's pretty fun. Well, I'll tell you the thing. I listen to a lot of players, and not that I just tell you, this is kind of what my thoughts are. The 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 fine nuance between this guy that can play the shit out of the guitar and that guy that can play the shit out of the guitar and that guy that can play the shit out of the guitar. It's there's something about the feel
Yeah.
and the communication through feel and timing. Like, why does Wes, of the thousands of guys that have tried to imitate Wes, they just can't quite get it?
Hmm.
It's not like we don't know what was going on. I mean, you can sit there and play 1,000 frickin', it's just not the same. Jeff
Yeah.
Beck on the electric guitar end of it, on the Stratocaster. I mean, guys, you just can't get there. And
Hmm.
why is that? It's that fine nuance of feel and
Yeah.
tone.
And even in identity too.
Yeah,
It's like I some of my favorite musicians and especially guitar players are players with a really distinct identity. And
right.
I think everybody has that, but there are only certain people who have the courage to really speak with their own voice. And so I'm a huge fan of a lot of players that don't play anything like George. You
Right.
know, or like Kevin Eubanks is one of my favorite guitar players because like when you hear one note and you know exactly who that
You
is.
know who it is. Yep.
You
That
know,
I just got off we did a video with Ed Cherry.
that's
And
another kid.
Ed's a case in point. Ed plays two notes, whatever it is, you know, you just wow, that's Ed. There's
Yeah,
no doubt about it, you know, then that's your case in point, identity.
yeah.
Well, I think, I mean, you're a young guy, you know, you're a young guy. And man, I listened to what you're doing on Bird Like from the record.
Oh yeah.
And your right hand, that's the best right hand I've heard. It's maybe the best right hand I've ever heard.
Wow. Oh man. Yeah, I appreciate that, man. That's very humbling to hear. I mean, you know, like it's weird. Like when I tell people this, like you know, even before I ever stepped foot in a jazz club, you know, I was kind of I come from kind of almost like a tribe of guitar players, and they all play like that, you know. So you know, in my church, just in my district alone. So we were district 3A, and so that included Akron, Ohio, Youngstown, Ohio, Warren, Buffalo, New York.
I'm
Uh,
from Buffalo.
oh, you're from Buffalo? Oh, nice. Uh, Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania. That so I think yeah, that was and Pontiac, Michigan. That was our district. So within that district, there were about let's see, maybe 10 to 12 like master guitar players. And they were all into Wes, all into George, all into Grant Green, all
Yeah,
into Charlie Christian, you know, so they all played like that.
yeah.
And each service, it would be the normal band would be two guitars, bass, drums, piano, and organ if there was an organ at the church.
Right.
But so like you know, even before I started playing, I'd be like on the front pew just looking over their shoulder. You know? So like, you know, and they all played like that. They all held a pick like that. Like I showed I remember I was on the road with Joey DeFrancesco and I showed him a recording of this one of the guitar players named Mark Green in Pontiac, Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, where did this dude come from? You know, it was just Mark messing around. And he playing all the George stuff, all the West stuff. I mean, it's just like I don't know what happened, but like it really you know, there's like generations of really, really good guitar players. So like I'm kind of, you know, a product of that a heavy product of that influence, you know.
Well, you're playing from. I mean, I don't, you know, not to put labels on it, but you're definitely heavily steeped in the tradition. You know, I mean, Charlie Christian is still somebody I go, what the, you know,
Mm-hmm.
what? I mean, 20 whatever he was years old, and I mean, he, you know, I mean, we all know the deal. I mean, I don't think enough people. I mean, everybody gives him credit, but I don't think anybody's ever listened to him. You know what I'm saying? It's like you go, you know, he wasn't some guy like, you know, I mean, he could play today, brother.
Absolutely.
You know, I
Absolutely.
mean, he could play today. He would kill today. So,
And
yeah,
whoever recorded that swing to bop thing at Minton's, like
yeah,
that's an important piece of not only jazz guitar history but just jazz history. Just because I you can hear because like for me this I used to talk to Joey about this all the time.
mm-hmm,
You know, Charlie Parker kind of solidified how we feel the swung eighth note. You know,
right,
even to this day. But before him, you know, there was kind of that, you know, do 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 do. It was a little more in that vein. But when you hear that swing to bop recording, you can hear kind of the shift. Like
right,
Charlie Christian was still coming out of the swing era with that, you know, do 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 with that kind of feel.
mm-hmm,
But his eighth notes were starting to be a little more legato, kind of a little more bird-like.
Yeah.
That's always been that's a fascinating recording to me.
I'd like you to delve into that a little bit more. Is there specific is there a specific area or track or piece of the music where you can really identify, people can go to it and really hear what you're talking about? Is there something that sticks out?
Yeah, so there's one Louis Armstrong recording called Potato Head Blues.
Uh-huh.
And so where he plays that solo. And you can hear that eighth note, that it's very it's on a certain part of the triplet, and you can really hear it during the clarinet solo. It's really pronounced there. And then you start listening to people like Sweets Edison or Lester Young, and the eighth note is starting to smooth out a little bit, because it was a little more back on the beat. And then when you get the bird, it's pretty much solidified. There's that recording of Billy's Bounce,
Right.
or Now's the Time, it's just like all the way smoothed out, and it really hasn't been changed since then, to my ears. Yeah, so when I think of like the swing era, I think of like something like. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's start that again because I'm starting to go into bebop land. So, yeah. So I'll take that tune. Da 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 da. It's a different kind of bounce. Right. So when I think about the bebop era, I think about a lot more different kind of slurs. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's great. Man, I gotta tell you, that was a good demonstration of what we're talking about. A lot of guys hear those terms, but they don't really know what they mean. And I thought you just did a great job of putting that together. The other thing that people would notice is that in the swing era, you were sticking a lot more to, the Ionian. You were sticking a lot more to the chords with what you were playing. And when you went into the bebop thing, as you were slurring, you were all over the place. You went in and out of different feels and stuff like that. You did some legato pull off kind of stuff. Some hammer on, a little hammer on. So it was a whole lot freer, I'm going to call it. And it was beautifully done.
Thank you. And I think that it's that's been a real heavy study for me, just because all my favorite players are, I think, what you would consider musically multilingual, so like when they find themselves in a new stylistic situation, they know how to speak it fluently. You know what I mean? Like when I'm in a bebop situation, I want it to sound like bebop. So I had to really like do my homework. Same way if I'm on a funk gig, I want my funk to be funky. So like, and it really kind of clicked for me when I played the Joy of Jazz Festival in Johannesburg, South Africa. I was talking to some of the people that were from there, and every person I talked to spoke like 7 languages. I'm like, what? I'm like, how do you keep track of that? He was like, I don't know. You just if you want to communicate with different people, you just kind of view it as a as kind of one language. It's just
Yeah.
it's situational. So that's kind of how I view different styles of music. It's one language. You just have to have like an appreciation for where it comes from, and so you can speak it fluently.
Man, I gotta tell you, that was articulated beautifully. I've never really thought of it that way before, but you're right. And people that grow up with where they have to learn a lot of different languages. I mean, if you learn languages when you're young, you got a big advantage.
Oh,
You got a big advantage. Or if you're in an environment where you have to speak it, yeah, that's a very, very good way of expressing it. So let's shift gears just a few minutes. Your newest record that came out in the spring,
mhm.
which is called
It's called Things Eternal.
Things Eternal. And I've listened to the record. Um, love the record.
Thank you.
It's great. And it was co-produced with Christian McBride.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, that speaks volumes, like right there.
That's my man. I love that guy. You know.
I tell you what, there's a club in Atlanta called the Velvet Note.
Yeah.
And early in the going, before they had a full-time professional sound guy there, which they do now. And so I would go in when they had premium gigs
Mhm.
and mix the sound. Now there's not a whole lot of mixing in a jazz trio, but you got to get the tone, you got to get it right. So Christian McBride played there. And he came in, I don't know, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, do a sound check. And he's the nicest guy in the world. I mean, very, very nice, very unassuming, very humble and all that. Comes in, gets on the stage, got his drummer, piano player, plays about 4 notes. They play, I don't think they played more than 8 bars.
Mm-hmm.
And he looks over the piano, he says, "You good?" "Yeah, I'm good." Looked at the drummer, "You good?" "I'm good." That was it. And he as he was walking out, he said to me, "Yeah, how about those lengthy sound checks, huh?"
Oh, man.
And it was killing. I mean, the show was killing. The tones were all killing. It was just amazing. But I'll never forget. He looked at me and winked. He said, "How about those lengthy sound checks, huh?" Yeah.
That sounds like him, man. Uh,
Oh, it was great. So how did you guys get to know each other? What's the genesis of that? Where how did all that come about?
well, they're kind of like conflicting stories because
Oh.
uh, so the earliest I remember meeting him was on the jazz cruise in 2015. I was there with Joey, and the first words he said to me, because I was like, I saw him coming over to me at the bar, and I was just like, "Is Christian McBride getting ready to come over here and talk to me?" I was like, like, and so like he daps me up, gives me a hug. And he says in my ear, "You were such a bad MFer." I was like, but you know who you are? Like you, Christian McBride. you know. And then he was just like, "Man, I got a gig that I want you to do in Tokyo. Can you make it?" I'm like, "I don't know. I hope so." Not being able to do it. And so two years later, Terry Pontremoli, she's over the Tri-C Jazz Festival in Cleveland. She
Right.
had him coming in to do the artist in residence, to be the artist in residence that year, and she was like, "Oh, by the way, I've set up this duo with you with this guitar player named Dan Wilson." He was like, "What? You got me doing all this stuff? And who is Dan Wilson?" So so we ended up playing the duo, and there was like instant chemistry. I mean, we played like, I think like we played Sunny Moon for two, Bolivia, and some Honeysuckle Rose, three
Mm.
tunes. And man, I mean, we're just like really like feeding off of each other. Everything I played, he was playing it, like better, and just it back to me. It was incredible. Uh, and then he was just like at the end, he's like, "Man, I think we just made a record, man." Like, I was like, "Shoot, man, this let's do it." And so after that, he called me to join his band. This is because Pat Metheny told me that he bugged Christian for like 3 years to hire me, but I don't. But McBride doesn't remember that, so I
Yeah.
don't know. So I don't know how. But all I know is when we did that duo, that was like it was instant chemistry, and he just like whatever I played, he wiped it off the stage.
There are guys that are like that for sure. And he's obviously, he there's just a couple of them,
Mm-hmm.
but they just have a way. They got big ears, tremendous facility,
Yeah.
great feel, great touch, and obviously he's one of them. The other name that we're batting about here is Joey DeFrancesco, who everybody, R.I.P. Joey. He's everybody's hands down organist. I mean, and trumpet player. I mean, he's a hell of a trumpet player as well, as you know. This is just reputation because I didn't meet him other than one time. Like, we didn't never have a conversation. It's like, oh, but but he had a reputation of being hard on musicians that didn't quite meet his standards.
Joey, yeah, yeah.
So that's a nice way of saying, and not only did you meet the standards of Christian McBride, who's, what do you say? What can you say about Christian McBride?
Yeah.
But Joey, who was hands down, while he was alive, was the world's greatest organist.
Yep.
And there you are in his band, and there you are. Does that ever affect you at all?
Well, you know what? While you're in it, it's just like, you know, sometimes you don't appreciate it. Just like, okay, I gotta just get to the next gig. But some nights I would be like, oh, right. It would be like a reminder, and sometimes it would take some of the older musicians to really pull my coattail and be like, look, I hope you realize that there are not that many gigs like that left.
Right.
That's one thing that Russell Malone really he kind of snapped me back to reality with that. I was like, man, I was kind of young and immature. I was like, so how much you think we should be getting paid? As a side, because
Yeah.
I didn't know, and he was just like, well, it sounds like what you getting is fair, and everything is on the up and up. He doesn't have any crazy reputations, but he was like, honestly, I wouldn't haggle too much about that, because there's not a whole lot of gigs like that left. It's
Right.
not the '80s where Jimmy Cobb is still around, or
Yeah.
some of the really heavy pillars of the music are still around. Some of them are starting to drop off.
Yeah.
So, like, get that experience while you can. So that kind of woke me up.
Yeah. Well, Russell was recently on our cover.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
yeah, and so I had a great conversation with Russell. He's phenomenal, phenomenal talent
Yeah,
and human being and all of those things. So I can see him saying that.
yeah, man. He's been a mentor for me for the past, like, let me see, maybe like 15 years or something like that.
Yeah.
He was so like really open, and invited me to his house. When I first met him,
Yeah.
and we played for like to the wee hours of the morning. All. started with jazz, and we went into like some of that old time church music, and just it was great. So, you know, we really I really look up to him to this day.
Well, I mean, he's a good guy to look up to. I mean, I have a good friend of mine, a fine guitar player, Taylor Roberts,
Mm.
who's working his way up, and a 7-string player.
Yeah, yeah, he's bad.
And Taylor?
Just through social media.
Oh, okay, yeah. Taylor's a great guy.
Yeah.
Anyway, but he called me one day. He says, "Man, I just got a phone call from Russell Malone." I said, just like out of nowhere, he just wanted to tell me he thought I was going. He said, I mean, so I'm thinking to myself, I mean, here's a guy, he doesn't have to do that, call the young guys and encourage them and, and all that kind of stuff. And I asked him about it, and he said, well, I learned it from people that did that for me. And it's when you guys got it going on, and they, but it's a great tradition, to mentor people like that. I mean, I got all the respect in the world for Russell, not only his playing, but his humanity is just.
Yeah, it comes. Yeah, you're right, and that comes. A lot of that is cultural. Like especially because we have similar backgrounds. Me and Russell, just coming out of the black church.
Right.
That the concept of apprenticeship.
You both came out of that. Now he came out of it through Middle and South Georgia, and you're in. Do you still live in Akron? Do you still live up there?
Yep. Still here.
Good for you, man.
Yeah, man. I I I can never do the big city, man. All the stuff I like to do with the hunting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
Yeah,
And
they take a dim view of bow hunting in Central Park.
that could get weird quick.
Yeah, not something you want to do,
Dude.
Let's talk about your record.
Okay.
We've started talking about that a little bit with Christian is obviously your co-producer, but I was really I don't know, I don't have a better word than impressed. I was so impressed with your band and the guys that you chose. They're all great. I mean, they're just all really, really great. I mean, I'd say, well, I love the Rhodes thing, man. And I actually, I didn't know, I'll admit it. I didn't know the names of these guys and girl.
Mm-hmm.
So I had Michelle, your publicist, send me the names, but and rather than me destroy them. So who was the piano player on the gig?
That's Glenn Zaleski, is the piano player. He's from Boylston, Massachusetts. And he's just like incredible. I met him at the first Rubber City Jazz Festival here
Right.
here in Akron, and just hearing kind of. I'm always looking for musicians that have like some sort of edge in their playing.
Right.
And Glenn has all this kind of like impressionistic touch. You can hear like traces of Bill Evans. You can hear some chicken there, a lot Ahmad Jamal.
Yeah.
There's like an edge that I can't really put my finger on that I had to have him in the band.
He's definitely got his own thing because he's not Bill. He's not, he's not like doing a carbon copy of that. But there, just like we're talking about the wine thing, there are traces of this guy and that guy and the other thing, but he's definitely his own thing. And it was and his ears are, I mean, I love people with big ears. I just love people with big ears. And I mean, his ears are great because he just, he just kind of heard what you were doing, and I love all that close harmony and all those little subtle distinctions and stuff like that, because if you do that right with your lines that you're playing, I mean, it just makes, it makes a good bouillabaisse, not a bunch of crap, not a bunch of crap thrown in a pot, and it's just beautifully done. So I pay attention more to to guitar players than I can everybody else that's out there. So I'm going to apologize for not knowing all that. You got a young bass player with you.
Yeah, Brandon Rose, man. That cat, this kid, he was like a child prodigy on electric bass.
Yeah.
You can go on YouTube and see videos of him when he was like 7 years old. This like, doing all the Marcus Miller stuff and really kill it. But he went to Michigan State and studied under Rodney Whitaker. And that's what made me really take notice of him, because Rodney is one of the best and most effective educators for bass players, in my opinion. And all of his students like that I come into contact with are killing. Ben Williams,
Yeah.
There's another young cat named Jonathan Meercotton that I just heard, and he's one of Rodney's students. No coincidence, he's killing. So I played a gig with Etienne Charles, the trumpet player, right smack dab in the middle of the COVID lockdown in Houston, and Brandon was on the gig, and we played One Finger Snap, like, up here, and it had been a while since I'd done that. Like, I used to play those tempos with Joey and McBride all the time, but it felt so comfortable. He was his quarter note was right there, not slipping, not doing anything, and great ideas. He makes good and mature musical decisions, and I don't really see that with child prodigies, because normally when they get to their 20s, they're like everything since then, since their childhood, has come easy to them. Right. So they kind of peak, and they kind of stay in that lane, because like everybody's just like, wow, I can't believe you can do that. You're so young. So, but they never really, I shouldn't say never, they rarely get seasoned. And I think he had a little bit more maturity than I've seen.
You're saying an interesting thing, and I don't want to lose track of him because I think he's great. But young guys have all that facility, and the thing that impresses everybody and what they get, the payoff that they get, is, wow, you can do all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But at some point in time, doing all that stuff, the technique falls away. I call it the dancing bear syndrome.
Yeah.
You see a bear dancing, and for the first 3 or 4 minutes, you go, holy shit, there's a bear dancing. And then after that, it's kind of like, oh, there's a bear dancing. When's that thing going to go eat? So it's no longer the novelty. So what you really want is, and it's hard for those guys to make the transition. Some do. Yeah. Joe Bonamassa did a pretty good job of making that transition, because I remember seeing him when he was like pre-puberty at the NAMM shows. Yeah. But some guys do, but some guys don't, because all they ever know is they're playing all the stuff, but they're not feeling it. They never get that feeling. And the thing that I loved about when I was listening to him play, I love bass players in general. I just believe it's the most, I hate to say this, guitarists, but I think in an ensemble, it's the most important instrument. Oh, yeah. You can change the drums, you can change the harmony, you can change the melody, you can change everything, and it won't affect the music as much as if you change the bass line. Mm-hmm. That's my theory. I could be wrong, but I just feel that. Yeah. Anyway, but I loved what he was doing, man, because he was just really, really mature. I think I'm going to use your term, very mature, and just like right there when he needed to be. He had all the chops in the world, and the tone was great, and everything he was doing, he was really listening to the music, and particularly on Eleanor Rigby, I really like what's going on there. Yeah. But then Birdlight comes along, and these are some tracks for those of you out. These are some tracks from the new record that are just great. In fact, Eleanor Rigby, getting back to that whole thing, is the single that you released.
Right.
The first single. So anyway, let's get back to the band for just a second. And the drummer, what's going on with that guy? Man, I love him. I love your whole band. I think you made like, I love the band. It's a great band. I'd love to go sit and watch that band do its thing. It's really, really good. So tell me about your drummer.
Yeah, we call him Throck. His name's David Throckmorton. I've been playing with him for let's see, about 12, 13 years now.
Yeah.
He's from Pittsburgh, originally Washington, Pennsylvania, but he played around Pittsburgh. So I would go play gigs in Pittsburgh a lot, and because that's just a really heavy musical town, and it's
Oh
like two
yeah.
2 hours up the road from me. So I would go try to get in that scene, and I would meet all the musicians there. And the first time we played together, we did an organ gig together, and
Mm.
we were both kind of, I think we kind of surprised each other because like I'm a I'm sort of like a frustrated drummer. That drums were my first instrument,
Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
so I'm always like trying to do what I can to interact with drums, because I try to take a really rhythmic approach. So he picked up on that, and he was just right there. It's like we were talking all night, and so I was just like, man, he has a real interesting mix of influences. Like his first influence was Steve Gadd, uh,
Yeah.
and Dave Weckl. He was like heavy into the fusion, and
Yeah.
he also got into like Elvin and
Yeah.
Tony Williams. So
Right.
it's a really odd mix that's really unique. So I had to have him in the band.
But he's really free.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very free, you know. I mean, very, very free and expressive and just fun to listen to. You know,
Yeah.
what did Sting say? You know, I love music where there's surprise me. You know, his
Mm-hmm.
playing has got all these little nice surprises in it. You know, you go, oh, you just go, oh, yeah, okay, all right. I I did see that drums was your first instrument,
Yeah.
and when I was studying jazz guitar in college as an older guy, I mean, I went back to school and studied, um, and I thought, what the hell is what do these guys, what do drummers think about? I mean, what is he doing? And so, because I realized, because we're playing jazz combo stuff like you do typical college, and so I went and took drum lessons. I took 12 drum lessons from the guy that was teaching at the university there. I didn't
Right.
want to be a drummer. I just wanted to understand what they're thinking about and
Yeah.
what's going on. And I got to tell you, it helped a lot. I mean, it helped me a lot, not only in my own playing, which I'm going to get it back to you because the fact that you were a drummer, I want to talk about the importance of that. But it helped me appreciate what's going on with the drums, with the bass, with the other instruments, and what, kind of how to think about. So I think everybody should take drum lessons, no matter what instrument you play.
Man,
Anyway,
yeah.
so your right hand, getting back to that, are you aware of how aware are you of time with your right hand when you're doing it? I mean, talk a little bit about that. Maybe you just do it. I don't know. But your right hand is uncanny
Oh,
how good it is. And if you need a proof of that, ladies and gentlemen, listen to Bird Like,
man.
because
That,
there's some serious technical stuff going on, but feel. I mean, all of it. You did a beautiful job on that cut.
thank you. Yeah, that comes that comes from playing drums. I like I was, and I talked to a lot of drummers about this. Because like the drummer that was in Joey's band with me, Jason Brown, we used to have conversations about that all the time. Like when you see videos of him getting around the drum set, you can see even if you don't, if you look at it without sound, you can see the sticks flying off of the drum set. You can see the instant reaction that he gets, and it looks like a flash of sticks, because the way he positions his hands or the way he holds the sticks affects the sound and affects just the reaction that he gets from the drum. So, and I talk about this in one of my web courses, like where with every downstroke, the energy that is that you get from the downstroke powers the upstroke. So it's not really like so with a drumstick, you're controlling a bounce,
Mhm.
right? So if you hold it, if you hold the drumstick, and you grip the drumstick and you don't let it bounce, you're not going to be able to get a dead sound out of the drum. Same way with the guitar, like the force that you grip the pick with, it makes a huge difference. And so I'll with every downstroke, I'll rest it on the next string, and then that energy that I get from that stroke powers the upstroke. So it's almost like one motion.
Right.
So that alleviates a lot of the you know, like all the technical issues that you can get into. And another thing, with that stroke, I'm depending on the next string to stop the stroke. And then from there, I can kind of push through and kind of bounce. The upstroke is kind of bouncing off of the downstroke. So, and you get a fuller sound like that. And the faster you go, the lighter the stroke becomes. But the same principle applies. So like I start, I'm still bouncing off of that next string. You know, so yeah, so that's a rule I try to live by, and also I keep that pinky, keep the kind of the back of my pinky anchored on the pick guard.
Right.
And I got that concept from playing basketball. It's just like when you in basketball when you're in the paint, and you're trying to maneuver around your opponent, you keep one foot planted on the ground to increase balance and to help with balance. So it's the same concept
I can
on
never
the
figure out
guitar.
how these guys play with their floating arm. I watch them and I go, I can't do that. I've got to have some anchor points, so like I can't make it work.
Yeah, Matheny plays like that. Pat Martino played with a floating arm. I mean, he made it work for him. Who else plays like that? I've seen a bunch of people play like that. I can't do it.
Yeah, it befuddles me.
Yeah.
Well, listen, man. I wanna say a couple things about stuff that's going on. So the record has been out since the spring, but you know what? It's a great record. I'm sorry we're so late to the dance here with it, but man, it's a
Oh,
great
so
record. I absolutely love it.
thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful playing. Great choices,
Thank you.
and so I want to mention one other human being that I fell in love with that's on your record, and that's your female vocalist.
Oh, Jessica. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Jessica's phenomenal, man. She was a former student of mine when I taught at Tri-C. And she's always had perfect pitch, great ears.
Wow.
But like she in the beginning she kind of struggled because everything came easy to her. Jessica Yafanaro, and she really put in the work.
Well, yeah, because I mean, just some of that phrasing that she's doing. Forget the production; the tone production is phenomenal. I mean, that's yeah, that's you got to study that to get that all going on.
Mm-hmm.
But the phrasing, the dynamics, people don't understand that there's dynamics involved with vocal. When to sing a little loud, when to sing a little soft, and then
Mm-hmm.
dealing with the lyric content. I mean, to be a good vocalist, and there aren't many of them.
It's tough. It's the tough acts.
I hate to say it, but there aren't many of them who are really, really good. There's a lot of people that are very talented and fun to listen to and all that, but people that have that skill, the talent
Mm-hmm.
that she has, I'm glad to hear you say that you worked hard at it because man, I hear some shit going on, and some people I guess can open their mouth and it just happens for them.
Yeah.
But so she's great. So keep talking. She was your student, and
Yeah, man. She always had perfect pitch, and like I had this, so a lot of times like I would give her something to work on, and she wouldn't work on it, and I'd be like, I sat her down. I was like, look, I'm happy you got it going on here with the perfect pitch and everything, but you know, you got to work past your natural abilities, and that's when uh the special stuff, you really discover the special things, because you still have to be familiar with the harmony. You still have to know where you are in the harmony, where you are in the form, understand how to communicate with the musicians that are playing with you. These are all skills that are built. They're not necessarily intrinsic or just, they don't come naturally to everybody.
No.
So and she really did that. She really um put in the work. She's very studious. She studies the voice, and she learns the music, and she can sing in a couple different languages. Um, Never out of tune.
Can people still study with you, or are you still doing?
Yeah, I'm not I'm kind of taking a break from like one-on-one lessons, because I'm in the writing process right now.
Right.
So I've just been playing and and writing, just trying to because I really want to do sort of a sequel to Things Eternal. So I'm just I got some originals, and I have some other tunes that I want to do. So that might be next on the menu here. But I do have some web classes available, just at danwilsonguitar.com.
Can people email you and reach out and say, hey, when you decide you want to teach again, reach back, get a hold of me, or what? I mean, can people get in your queue?
Absolutely, absolutely.
And that would come through the website probably and the contact Dan
Yeah.
Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
Say that URL again, Dan Wilson.
danwilsonguitar.com.
Yeah, there is a pop singer, Dan Wilson. So you gotta
Yeah,
you're not confusing because they're and he's very talented too, by the way.
he is, man. He wrote one of the best pop songs of like my high school days. That song, "Closing Time."
Yeah.
I love that song. It was the intervals that I know who I want to take me home. That's not easy to sing, you know.
No,
Uh,
no. So we're giving him a little shout out here.
yeah.
Uh, I guess that's about it for me. I mean, is there something? Is there a message that you want to get out there? Is there something else that you want to get into? I don't. I
well, I want to tell people that I'm pretty excited about. In a couple of weeks here, I'll be going to California to SF Jazz. I'll be playing duo with Bruce Foreman.
well, let me just tell you this. This cover will happen in November.
Oh, okay. So it already, it'll be,
So,
yeah, that's cool. That's fine.
so you will have already done it.
Oh, okay.
So I wanted to ask you about your guitar.
Mhm.
On the record, I believe you recorded with a GA35.
That was the past record. On this record, I had the Pat Martino model.
The Pat Martino model. Okay, so the GA35 is a semi-hollow guitar that Benedetto made for a little while. Because I saw the video of you playing Eleanor Rigby, and you were playing on this guitar.
Mm-hmm.
So you get a great tone out of it, man. I mean, a great
Okay.
tone. I know that it's a chambered instrument. What string are you using flat wounds on it?
Yeah, the D'Addario Chromes. Yeah.
12s, 13s,
11s.
11s.
11s, yeah. It was
Very cool.
yeah, I was like, I mean, as much as I love Pat, he was like he was really nice to me, and like he was a huge influence. But I can't play those telephone wires that
Well, you know that the telephone wires are really only on the E string and the B string and all that. I mean, if you look at his set, because I thought the same thing. How do you play a 18 on an E string? I mean, how do what happens? But the set lightens up as it goes, to the low end. Because I thought to myself, what the hell is he doing? But there's no real need. I mean, I know you've heard Pat play probably many, many times. When he came to Atlanta to play, he requested a Marshall 412 cabinet.
oh man.
And
Yeah.
he said that that was his norm. And I'm listening to him play. I'm saying, man, the guy sounds like a kick drum with intonation. I mean,
Mhm.
like boom, 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 you know. And I said to his drummer when I got off the stage, I said, man, I said, I didn't even know what to say to him. I said, man, that's a hell of a gig you got there, you know. And he knew what I was getting at because Pat's time was Pat Martino's time. It was
Absolutely.
incredible. But yeah, those strings are that was pretty crazy. But the sound that you're getting is beautiful. I mean, it's
Thank
absolutely beautiful. In fact, a friend of mine was looking for a new jazz box because he's tired of playing, the big one.
you. Yeah.
And I said, hey man, you need to listen to Dan Wilson's Eleanor Rigby. I said because he's getting that beautiful mix between an ES 175 and an old George Benson tone and all that. He said he
Mhm.
must be playing with flat wounds. I said, yeah, it probably is, or probably 12s, or something like that, but not 11s. That's really good to know.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good mix for me because I can still, if we need to get funky and I need to go to chicken picking, I can just, go right into that.
Very cool. And then what you use any pedals or strictly into the amp or what's going on there?
No, just into the amp. I think eventually I'll get some pedals and get into that, but that's I think down the road. You know.
And then are you using a twin reverb on the road too, or just in the studio?
I prefer the Fender Deluxe. Yeah, I like the tone a little bit more, but I'll use a twin. I'm cool with a twin. Yeah.
You know what? I mean, I don't know. As a vocalist, SM58 just seemed to work, and so did Deluxe reverbs. I love. I mean, that's my favorite guitar amplifier.
But I mean, keep in mind, I'm like, I'm coming out of the church, so I'm like I'm used to playing on like substandard equipment.
Right.
'Cause and even some of that mentality hasn't left me yet. I'm still like, yeah, I'll play through this, as long as it makes noise, but I need to, it's nice. It's nice when you have good equipment. I'm just not used to it yet.
So Bob Bakert for Jazz Guitar Today with Dan Wilson. Hey man, thank you so much for sharing everything you shared. It was a great conversation. I loved it.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Oh well, we'll hopefully we'll do it again many more times.
Yes, sir.
Bye bye now.
All right, you have a good one.